Republic Day, the 26th of January, is a very memorable event in our life. For me, it's even more memorable because on this day, I got my second chance to life. I was studying in the 7th standard. My family and friends organized a picnic to St. Mary's Island near Malpe. We could reach the island on a steamer, and midway we had to get down on a small boat since the big boat could not reach the land. We played there all day long, and in the evening when it was time to return, the big boat did not come to pick us up because it had developed some problem. So all of us had to go in a small boat, rowboat. So the thought of it was really very scary. This is the first time we were visiting an island and a small boat, and after all that. So it was okay, but then we got into the boat and we were down, traveling back to the mainland. We were halfway down when the boat's small engine developed some trouble. It didn't start, it just stopped off. The boatman tried his best to start the engine, but it didn't go on. All of us were first of all we were scared, and after that we were damn nervous. We couldn't even move about because just a small shake would topple the boat. Everyone was very stiff. All of us, like most of us, didn't know swimming. And the people on the shore, we could see them, but we couldn't react anything. We could see the people on the shore enjoying. But for them, it was just a boat returning from fishing. For us, it was a matter of life and death. Suddenly, my uncle who was sitting on the edge, he just lost his balance and slipped. He fell into the sea. And I was there watching. I didn't know anything to do. I couldn't feel anything actually. Then luckily for him, he knew swimming. He could come up, and the boatman pulled him aboard. After that, we had an oar, and that was the only lifeline for us. So the boatman started rowing. It was a tough time. He had a tough time because there was hard wind blowing and all that. So we made slow progress at snail speed, I can say. And finally, we reached the shore at 8:30 in the evening. We started at 6 and we reached at 8:30. The 2.5 hours was a lifetime for me. It was just like in heaven when we reached the shore. All of us cried and laughed together. It was an experience none of us could forget. For me, it's a memorable experience because even when I think of it now, I can get the feeling of terror in mid-sea. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sudhir Bhatt of the 11th batch TAPMI. When I was asked to talk about my most memorable incident in my life, my first thought that came to my mind was the incident that occurred recently in my life. It all started when I had an accident on 6th October 1992 on my motorbike. This happened on the way to Malpe Beach. I think all of you know where Malpe Beach is. The injuries sustained were totally centered on my face. According to the doctors, the upper mandible, zygomatic complex, nasal bone and the left condyle were severely fractured. These are the part of the human skull. Fortunately, the doctor said that they could put back everything in place without causing much external scars on my face. Just when I began to feel that everything would be alright, doctors informed me that after the operation they would have to lock my jaws with steel wire for a period of about 10 weeks. This meant that for 10 weeks I could neither eat solid food nor talk. My daily diet began with soup, ended with soup. I had to drink gallons and gallons of juice just to sustain myself. All I could think all day was food. Whenever I saw people eating around me, I would just go crazy. I don't know whether you'll be able to imagine yourself in my situation. You couldn't talk, just you had to close your jaw, couldn't eat anything. I began counting the days when the doctors would finally remove the steel wires and my jaws would be unlocked. My weight began to decrease and I began to look like the shadow of my former self. After the prescribed time of 10 weeks, I went to the hospital. I happily went to the hospital in anticipation that the wires would be removed and the jaws unlocked. But I was dismayed when doctors said that they would remove the wires only after another week. It was a precautionary measure so that the fractures would heal properly. Finally, on 29 December 1992, they decided that the fractures are healed and the wires could be removed. The process was very painful, but I didn't care. My only thoughts were I could eat again and speak again. So on 31st December 1992, I finally began to eat and speak properly. I could open my mouth and talk. I would never forget this day, the eve of New Year, which brought me freedom to talk and to eat again. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sunny Singh. The date, 21st of December, 1990. The day, my 18th birthday. The venue, a police station in Sector 11, Chandigarh. The occasion for celebration, well, not my birthday, but the lodging of a first information report, NFIR, in short. It all started on the 5th of December. A friend of mine asked me for my bike. He said he wanted to go to Solan. But I couldn't refuse, though I was a little apprehensive. I had this uncanny intuition within me. It said that I won't be able to see my baby ever again. His name was Sukhwinder Singh Sidhu, and he was a friend of my roommate, a distant acquaintance from his pit, the village. This pal didn't turn up that night. He didn't turn up the next night either. I waited and I waited. He didn't turn up for the next 3 days. On the 4th day, I got a letter. When I read it, a normal letter. When I read it, I was shocked out of my wits. The letter was from the Khalistan Liberation Army, one of the leading militant outfits of Punjab at that time. And it was signed by the area commander. I won't disclose the name. The letter was addressed in my name. Instinctively, I was shocked. I was numb. I was numb with fear. Fear because the truth dawned upon me. Sukhwinder Singh Sidhu was a terrorist. I was involved with a terrorist. I was numb because I had given my bike to a terrorist. I guess you guys don't understand what I mean. I mean the Punjab problem. Me staying in Chandigarh in a room. I have a bike of my own. And being a Sikh, as a Kutsar especially, it was a lot of problem. And to top it all, I was involved in abetting a terrorist. I was in deep trouble. The letter stated that Sukhwinder Singh was involved in an encounter with the Punjab police near Rajpura, and he had died for a cause. And my bike was safe. This was what the letter stated. And the area commander had instructed me to collect my bike from Sector 17 parking slot on December the 11th. I had 2 days to collect my bits. Meanwhile, I tried to inquire as much about Sukhwinder Singh as I could. All the information I could gather was that he was a distant acquaintance of my roommate from his pind or village. I mustered enough courage and took my friends into confidence. I needed all moral support and confidence because the coming few days were to be the worst ever in my existence on the planet Earth. On the 11th, we searched all over Sector 17, every nook and corner of Sector 17. We searched from 8 in the morning till late at night, but the bike was nowhere to be seen. It was not the motorcycle that mattered. It was that a terrorist was involved and he had my bike. The mere thought of the consequences set cold shivers down my spine. The dilemma was, if I approach the authorities with the truth, but then who wants to approach them, especially the Punjab police? There was no other alternative left. I had to lodge an FIR fast before any shadow of suspicion was cast upon me. Now the question was not of the bike, but of saving my own skin. I approached the police with a fabricated story. They found it hard to believe. They questioned me, they cross-questioned me. I was called at the police station over and over again. I was put through a lot of mental anguish and agony. Finally, they believed in me. That was because of a lot of pull and money in me. And on my 18th birthday, that is the 21st of December, incidentally, 21st of December, 1990, they lodged the FIR. After 4 months, I got the insurance claim. Ladies and gentlemen, till date, my bike is missing. And in case you come across a silver Yamaha RX 100cc, registration number CH1D 4857, please inform me. That's my baby.
I am Swaminathan. In school, I was in my 11th standard. Our principal one day arranged for a demonstration teaching in mathematics by a new teacher. This new teacher came into the class and started teaching. The first thing we noticed about this teacher was that he was cockeyed. His eyes were so cross that they were almost staring at each other. Whenever he looked into the class, no one could find out to whom he was looking at. Whenever he posed a question, there was a big confusion because 10-15 hands got up from different places trying to answer that question. It was a big confusion. And the whole class was a flop simply because our focus was on his eyes and never on his teaching. At that time, there was a girl in our class who was a bit hep, and we used to consider her a bit different. So after that class got over, all the boys were standing in the corridor discussing the performance of the teacher. At that time, I commented aloud, "What kind of a teacher he is, yaar? Wherever he looks in the class, he is able to keep one eye on that girl." At that moment, the principal and the teacher passed by me. They happened to hear what I said. The principal looked at me, shocked and angry. And that teacher, that poor man, he looked at me and he smiled. What kind of a person I am, look. I smiled back at him as if nothing had happened. This is just one of many a such faux pas that I have committed in my life. For some strange reason, I hold all the blunders that I have committed in my life, all the social blunders, all the times that I have dropped bricks as most memorable. And I can sit all day recollecting them, laughing at myself. But the incident that I hold as most memorable, the one that I hold as the incident of my life, was a very serious one, and it occurred in very different circumstances. We were on a trip to Kashmir, and that excursion had many fellow students from different classes in that trip. Our first stop was at Srinagar, and we spent 3 days there, and there we had a gala time, the time of our lives, going in the Shikara, visiting gardens there, shopping, and then taking photographs and having campfire dinners and lunches. We had a big time there. Then we visited Gulmarg, and on the penultimate day, we visited a place called Sonmarg. Now Sonmarg is special. It is 2.5 hours from Srinagar, and it is the closest place to Srinagar where you have snow all through the year. So we wanted to see snow. So we went to Sonmarg. We reached Sonmarg on that day at around 12:30, 1 o'clock. And from there, we could see the snowy peaks where we had to go. And to go to the snow, we had to cross a few hills, which were very slippery with a lot of ups and downs. It was very risky, but somehow by helping each other, we managed to cross those hills, and without mishap, we reached the snow. And the first thing all of us did reaching the snow was to feel the snow in our hands. And the next thing was to make it into balls and start a snowball fight. That war lasted for 2 hours. And the 2 hours flew so fast that all of us were surprised when one of our members told that we got to start back because it was getting dark. And it was while coming back from that snow point to the bus that some of us had the most horrifying experience of our lives. It had started to rain and it was already dark. The entire group had split into small groups, and I was in a group of 4. A boy and a girl, both of them my classmates, and then there was another girl who was in a 7th standard, and she had started crying because our group was left behind, totally separated from the rest of the group. And there was something about that situation, that crisis, the rain, the darkness, the slippery slopes, the total loss in direction. There was something about it. We were enjoying nature. We were seeing nature as something so beautiful. We had so much fun with it. And suddenly the whole scenario, the whole force of nature had changed into something so cruel, something so dangerous. We were all scared, but we all had our instincts up. And we knew we had to survive. We knew we had to somehow make it back to the bus. And there was one part in me which was enjoying that experience, which was enjoying that adventure. And till this day, I remember that part of me, enjoying that out of this normal day-to-day world experience. We made it. We made it back to the bus. Anything could have happened that day. Some person could have slipped, broken a leg or two, to say the least, or all of us could have got lost. But we made it. I hold that, incident of me and my friends facing the fury of nature and somehow overcoming it back and alive. I hold that experience as most memorable. Not only because I survived, because I still have that part in me which wants to go back to Sonmarg, go back to Kashmir and experience the same adventure that we had. There's something about that experience where you walk on the razor edge, you don't know what is going to happen next to you, and you're going to depend totally upon your own self to save your life. That experience was the experience of my life. I thank you all. It was a great pleasure talking to all of you. Thank you.
My name is Vanasuma Karan. I would like to share with you an experience, an unforgettable experience, in which I had an opportunity to speak Chinese and perform magic without having any previous knowledge. This happened in one of our NSS camps. The camp's routine go like this. In the mornings, we have our work. In this particular camp, we had to level a playground. And in the evenings, we had to put up cultural programs for the local people in that area. And this cultural program had to start from 6 and end at 8. It had to continuously go on. 8 was a limit. One evening it so happened that we exhausted all our skits, drama, songs, dances, everything around by 7:20 p.m. Sister Supriya, that was our NSS officer, she said, no, you have to think of something and continue till 8. So we had to think of something pretty fast. One of my friends, Sangeeta, she had an idea. She called it the Chinese magic. And she felt that I was most suitable for that role, what she had in mind. She said, don't worry, you just have to speak Chinese and do some magic. That's all. And before I knew what was happening, I found a hat on my head. There was a shawl put around my shoulder, and I'm supposed to look like a magician. And then when my face was being painted, I got the full details from her. I tried to stop her because I didn't want to make fools of ourselves. I was positive we would be fools. I mean, we would be made look like fools, and the audience would get the hang of it. But before that, she went onto the stage welcoming me, so I had to follow her. I had no choice. We started off like this. She introduced me to the audience, and before I forget, I was a Chinese magician, and I knew only Chinese. I could speak only Chinese, I could understand Chinese, I knew nothing else. She was the one who knew Kannada and Chinese, so she was doing the translation between me and the audience. She introduced me to the audience, and then she said she's going to do something for us. Then she got a piece of cloth and blindfolded me so securely that I couldn't see anything. In fact, I didn't even know where the mic was. I felt I was in a dark place. And then she brought 3 objects and she asked me to identify. So I started off something like this. I mean, I spent some time thinking, and then I started mumbling all this in Chinese, of course. Cha, shu, wa, hu, and all that. I just freaked out on stage. And then finally, after a long time, I got the hang of it. I understood what the object was. I said, cha, shu. And then she translated it to the audience. And the audience was surprised because I had guessed right. This continued for 3 objects. And by the end of which our act was supposed to end. But what happened was, the audience had other ideas. They knew something fishy was going on, but they couldn't put their finger on it. The guys at the back, who normally boo at us when we perform some songs or dance or whatever, they sent an object to her and told her to ask me what it was. I mean, this wasn't in the part of the whatever, and audience thought they'll try to get the hang of it. So some of my friends were watching from the side wings. Even though they knew what actually was happening, even for a minute, even they panicked. What would I do? Of course, I was damn cool. And then for this particular object, I took a long time with all my expressions and crazy gestures. I went from that side to this side. I couldn't see, but still I was trying my best. And after all that, I said something like, I yelled something in Chinese. And she translated it to the audience. She said umbrella. The audience were just stunned. And after that, there was a loud applause, especially from the kids who were sitting right before. They were laughing throughout from the beginning with all my expressions and all that. But even the audience at the back, they were completely fooled. After the show was over, I was so surprised that people could get fooled so easily. I just couldn't believe it. In fact, days after that, the kids would come and ask, but they were convinced I knew Chinese. They came and asked me, please tell us what do you call, a board in Chinese, what do you call this, what do you call that? They were damn positive. In fact, some of my own juniors, even they weren't sure whether I knew Chinese or not. So it was really funny, and I really had a nice time. And after that, we used to greet each other in Chinese. Anything, it would go, you could say anything and it would be Chinese. Whenever I think of this incident, I'm just glad that the real Chinese people, weren't around to see how I talk utter rubbish on stage in the name of their language. Thanks a lot.
I'm Vijay Francis Rego. Thank you, Vanasima, because you've put me into a very good mood and I've lost all my nervousness. I was once a loser in life. I had no friends, I was unhappy, and I was unsuccessful. In fact, I had a self-image that matched my height. But then an event occurred which was to change the very nature of my life. I was studying in the 10th standard of St. Mary's School in Delhi. I was a mediocre student and an enthusiastic but very average sportsman, a sort of a jack of all sports and master of none. It was then that I began to take athletics very seriously. I made a SWOT analysis of myself and realized that perhaps I could do well in the 800 and 1500 meters run. But it would be such a joke if people knew that I was taking athletics seriously. So what I did was, near my house there was the deer park. So I decided to practice in the deer park because I didn't want anybody to know that I was taking athletics seriously. I got hold of a copy of a training manual of middle distance runners and thought up a nice training schedule for myself. Mind you, it wasn't easy. I would practice every day in the morning and in the evening at the deer park. There were times when I desperately wanted to give up. Especially during my runs, halfway through my runs, I would feel like giving up. But every time I thought of giving up, a voice deep inside urged me to continue. It said, "You've always been a loser. It's time you become a winner." One day an announcement was made at the school assembly of the Delhi State Inter-School Zonal Championships. I made it then and there as my objective to win a place for myself on the school team and to win laurels for self and for the school. During my practice runs, I began visualizing myself as a winner, and every time I neared the finishing post, I would raise my hands up as if I was the victor. Soon, the day of the championships arrived. On the first day of the championships was held the 1500 meters run. I do not remember very much about the event, except that I came second. The second day of the championships turned out to be one of the most memorable days of my life. We were about 25 to 30 of us bunched at the start of the 800 meters run. At the starting of the race itself, I began to lag behind the rest of the runners in the event. My legs began to buckle and I was very, very nervous. As I neared the end of the first lap, I reached the point where my teammates were sitting in the stadium. I could hear loud shouts of encouragement and I was really I really felt encouraged. Visions of the struggle of the past few months began engulfing me. I could remember the struggles of the last few months, where alone in the deer park I would practice, unknown to everyone except a few close friends and my family. That was when I made my move. I decided that I have to win this race. It so happened that the runners in front of me were impeding my progress. So I moved to an outer lane and began to sprint. Because the other runners were impeded in their progress, I was able to start sprinting on the outer lane, and at the last 100-meter mark, I was neck to neck with the leader of the race. The momentum carried me through and I was able to outsprint him, and I breasted the tape a clear winner. My teammates, my friends in the stadium came running towards me and hugged me and lifted me on their shoulders. Overnight, I became a star. At the next day in the school assembly, the principal made a special mention of my victory, and the Times of India carried my name on its headline in the sports page on the next day. Well, you would ask me, why am I narrating such an incident to you? What have I gained from this incident? Remember, I told you at the beginning that I was friendless, I was unhappy, and I was unsuccessful. But this one incident changed the very nature of my life. It made me popular, it gained me friends. It made me it gave me a better self-image, made me more positive. But most importantly, it taught me the importance of hard work. Thank you.
Good afternoon, friends. I'm Vikram Gautam. The most memorable incident in my life took place when I was studying in MIT Manipal. It was the 23rd of June, 1990. We were having our 4th semester final examinations. It was our last exam, which had been postponed because of some problem in the university. But incidentally for me, my brother's marriage was also scheduled for the same day, which meant that after giving the exam, I had to reach Delhi by evening. We used to have our exams from 9 in the morning to 12 in the afternoon, and I have to catch a flight from Mangalore airport at 1:30. All the odds were against me, because it usually takes 1 hour 30 minutes by taxi to reach the Mangalore airport from Manipal. I did not even have a confirmed ticket. It was really a race against time, and I had to win it somehow. In the excitement of going home, I kept looking at my watch throughout the paper. I came out of the examination hall half an hour early, hoping that I had done the paper well. I had already booked a taxi, and I was soon on my way to the airport. I reached the airport at 1 o'clock sharp, but there I found the flight was totally overbooked. There were at least 50 people on the wait list. I talked to the airport manager and told him of my problem. He told me that the only thing I could do was wait, although it was not of much use. I lost all hope. I was totally depressed, and I sat down in the airport manager's room, hanging my head in despair. And suddenly I saw the captain of the plane, which was now refueling, come into the airport manager's room and talk to the airport manager. I don't know what made me do it, but I suddenly got up and went to the captain, and I told him of my problems. I was shocked, and I couldn't believe my ears when I heard him say that I could travel with him in the cockpit. I was overjoyed, and more than that, I was excited at the prospect of traveling in the cockpit. I had actually won the race against time. All the other passengers in the plane, flight was totally uneventful and normal, but for me, it was full of surprises. When I told the captain that I was from MIT, he gave me an aerial view of my college and all the hostels. In the first time in my life, I saw another plane flying right below our plane. It was a normal experience altogether. Today, when I look back at this experience, I can confidently say that this was the most memorable experience in my life. Thank you.
Hello, I am Vineet Saluja. I'll relate to you something very interesting. I'll tell you the best part of my life, like how to write an ad for the matrimonial alliance. I'll just relate to you first that I got a very close friend who is just going to get married, for which I had written an ad. The ad goes like this. Friend of mine, his name, 31 years, 175 centimeter height, 73 kgs weight, very fair, handsome, smart, pleasing personality, humanitarian bachelor, earning 5-figure. Domestic atmosphere, Tamil, Iyengar, Brahmin. I gave this ad to the classified agency and waited for the response. My friend as well. After about 6 months, you can say, we got the response. Only one letter had come in the box, and that letter was from a female in Visakhapatnam. The letter of her goes like this. Dear Dash, I am very happy to see that you are a Dash young man, who is Dash tall and weighs Dash. So you are a Dash by caste. That is very nice. What luck that I am a young woman of Dash years of age, who is Dash. You are my dream man and I am your dream woman. It went on like this with the blanks appropriately filled up. This guy waited. He thought that this female is supposed to be a useless one from Visakhapatnam. He could not expect a good female from Visakhapatnam. So he thought, why not phrase the advertisement properly? So he went to the secretary of the classified agency and asked her to frame for him. She said, why not add a proper adjective to it? So what was the adjective like? She asked to fill the adjectives like debonair, humorous, well-mannered, religious family, loving, patient, sincere and hygienic. About a week later, he managed to get 3 letters and he was overjoyed. The first letter was from the same Visakhapatnam female who had told that why he didn't respond to her letter before. Second was from a guy who had asked why he is having a problem getting married. He is such a hot guy. The third was from a sexologist who had sent him an illustrated brochure about the VD and suggested that he may be, that is why he had problem finding a wife. Depressed, my friend returned to the classified office to discuss new adjectives to insert with secretary. But the secretary at this stage, suddenly she refused. She refused to discuss it. I know I helped you choose the correct adjective, she said. But at this stage I am not going to write anything more. And she started looking at the guy very dubiously. Waited. The guy thought that why is she not speaking? Then she said, I want to put up the case for myself. She said, what would you say to a decent looking matrimonial executive, 27 years old, 5 feet 3 inches, with sense of humor and patience, she asked. He thought a while and then finally said yes, he is ready to marry her. Now they are happily married and I had gone to see her as well as my friend. And You will be surprised, only very few were there in the party. Like my friend was there, his wife, then I was there, and the head of the matrimonial department. The head of the matrimonial department whispered to the female, to the bride, and said, "Look, don't forget to mention that you met and got married through the Times of India matrimonials." And to conclude, I'd like to say something. Godh mein bacha, shahar dhindora. Thank you.
Tohin Banerjee, what's your problem? Now the first 5 should sit here. The first 5. The next 5 should sit here. Right, we are here assembled for the video recording session of the members of section 2 of batch number 11, 1993-95. We had a very pleasant recording session in the morning for section 1, and I'm sure that this session is also going to be a very interesting one. We had very interesting stories, very interesting incidents related to us. The subject given to you is a memorable incident in my life. Now, why I choose this subject is because it's very easy for you to recall something from your own lives. You don't have to prepare for it. What I'm worried about, or what I expect here is your performance. How do you stand on the platform? Your platform poise. How do you deliver? Are you practicing your kinesics, your paralinguistics? Are you modulating your voice? Do you stop at the right place? Do you lay emphasis on the right words? Do you get the right meaning across? That's what is important. So I expect you to bring all these features out and make your speech a memorable one. Let your speech also be a memorable incident for all of us here in TAPMI. So we shall go in the alphabetical order, and we shall start with Ajit Ramling. Shall we start, Ajit? Please start.
My name is Ajit Ramalingam. Madras, July 1991, 2:30 a.m. A moped and an auto screeches to a halt. 3 people jump out of the auto and hold a knife at the neck of the moped rider. That rider, my friends, was me. I was coming back from a party late in the night, and after a while I saw an auto coming close to me. One of them from the auto asked me, "Where is Gopalpuram 2nd Street?" I said I didn't know and continued riding. Suspecting something wrong, I looked into the rearview mirror and saw that the auto was following me. I went as fast as my moped could take me, trying to reach the main road. Just 50 meters before the main road, the auto driver cut me and I came to a halt. 3 people jumped out from the auto and held a knife at my throat. I was shocked. I didn't know what happened. One of them asked for my chain, and I tried to look at the auto number when he asked for the chain, and all I received was a blow on my back with a rod and pushed towards a wall. Afterwards, one of them snatched the chain and went to the auto and went a few meters ahead and stopped. The other 2 asked for my wallet. I had no hesitation in offering it, knowing very well I had no money in it. Then they got into the auto and went away. I was shocked. It took me a few minutes to recover from the incident. I went to the nearest police station to lodge a complaint. On the way, I found a burning sensation around my neck. It was another half of the chain which had got entangled around the thread around my neck. When I reached the police station and narrated the incident, much to my surprise, the police officer agreed to go to the nearby police station auto stand. We went to the auto stand, and on questioning the auto drivers, one of them said that they had spotted an auto parked 3 alleys away. We took the auto driver along the jeep and went to the alley and were very successful in nabbing the culprits. We then reached the police station again. I couldn't see the culprits being hit, but I could hear the sound of the lathi and that of them screaming. They found my chain in one of the pant pockets, and the police inspector asked me to come home the next day to collect my chain after finishing the formalities. By the time I reached home, it was 5:30 in the morning, and my parents were waiting at the door with a look of anger and anxiety in their face. When I narrated the incident to them, it changed to one of sympathy and concern. Just before going to bed, I recollected the evening's happenings and considered myself lucky to be tucked inside my sheet, all set to take a good sleep. Thank you.
I'm Alexander Jacob. Hope is that thing with feathers which perches on the soul. It sings a song without the words and never seems to stop at all. What I'm going to tell you about today is a person who was very special to me. It so happened that not many months ago, one day, to my utter horror, I realized that the song does come to an end. And hope really seemed to be a thing with feathers and wings, for it flew and flew far, far away. This person I'm talking about was my economics professor, our class lecturer, Professor Thomas George. Young, dynamic, super brilliant, and of course, bursting with life. 22nd of January 1993. I can never forget that day. The college union was conducting a fundraising program, and it so happened that I met Professor Thomas George outside the principal's office and talked to him for nearly half an hour about nothing in particular. Soon I left the campus with a friend of mine to get something from outside. As we were returning, we found a major traffic block near a very politically oriented college en route to our own. And naturally we assumed that the students of that college were back on the streets on strike again and stoning the buses. But slowly as the traffic inched forward, we found out that it was an accident. A state transport bus had run over a scooter. There was such a lot of blood on the road that I very casually remarked to my friend that whoever this person is, he'll surely kick the bucket. Hardly had I finished saying this, did I notice that very familiar golf cap and those very familiar spectacles lying on the road, crushed, soaked in blood. I tell you, I could not muster enough courage to turn around and look at the number plates of that scooter. Yes, it was his. Within a matter of seconds, we reached the hospital where he was taken. We were told that he had a major head injury and the bus had run over his right arm. As he was being taken into the operation theatre, he saw me. He had not lost total consciousness yet. He told me, "Alex, will I lose my right hand? Will I lose my right hand?" I said, "No, sir. Nothing is going to happen to you." And then they took him away. By this time, priests from our college, faculty, and hundreds of students had already assembled outside the hospital, outside the operation theatre. Around 15 minutes later, a doctor came out and said that they needed B positive blood, and lots of it. We ran helter-skelter, and we thanked the Lord that because of the fundraising program in college, there were such a lot of students present. They kept on giving him blood, bottle after bottle, but there was no improvement, absolutely. The scanning machine in the hospital was not functioning. We wanted to take him to a nearby government specialist hospital to get him scanned, but owing to some technical reasons, the doctors did not allow us to do that. Now, the pressure was so much that a few of us, we walked out of the hospital and went to a coffee shop nearby. Hardly had we seated ourselves that somebody came running and said, "Professor Thomas George is dead." Rather, he had passed away. Our Thomachin, that is what we used to call him, Thomachin, he had gone. He flew away with hope, with all the wings and all the feathers. But the only question I keep on asking to myself, and probably to some divine power up above, is why? Why did he have to get close to me? He was a friend, a father figure, a brother, a classmate, a friend, an enemy, an adversary, all clubbed into one man. And that man was the nearest I saw to perfection. Why did he have to get close to me? He could have treated me like any other ordinary student. It wouldn't have affected me this much. I still can remember that questioning look in his wife's eyes. And I'll tell you, it was hardly 3 or 4 days since we had returned from our class tour. We had been to Bangalore and Mysore and all those places. And it was a splendid tour. I don't know, even now, every time I look at my graduation snap, I see that empty chair and I feel a pang in my heart. I don't have any more words to say to this.
Hello friends, I'm Amitabh Vyas. Well, a memorable incident is one which happens to you, which makes you go back into your past and take a lesson for the future. Could you imagine that a lady who's a virgin gets into a crisis, comes out of the crisis, has a kid and still remains a virgin? This is what exactly happened to me. I was studying, this is somewhere near 1985, when I was in my 7th standard in St. Mary's Convent School in Jammu, where I used to be one of those introverts, one of those shy boys who used to sit in the back bench, could never speak, could never raise my hand for any question, and would always be punished for something or the other. And I took it all very sportingly. One fine day, sitting in the back bench, I realized that a girl who was sitting in the next bench would always look at me. I was very innocent, as I am today also, and did not interpret what she meant by all that. But finally, when the class ended up that day, she came up to me and told me, "What is your problem? Why are you so quiet? Why don't you speak to us? We are all your friends. Try and speak out to us." I started speaking to her, and unfortunately, the Hindi movies at that time used to be very good, and I was very much carried away by that. That is one of the reasons why I built up an image that I will be a single man, a young man hero dashing who would not talk to anyone and would keep that image up. Started talking to this female, and I thought that yes, this girl is in my life. I imagined of all sorts of things, the beautiful songs that would go around, the writing of the names on the trees and all those things. But it exactly happened this way. This girl was so carried away by my smartness, which by no exaggeration is the same today, that she just told me one fine day, "Do you know there is a word called love in the dictionary?" So I said, "All the love I know is my mother's and my father's love." She said, "No, this is a different kind of love. Experience it." Yes, I was ready for it. We became friends, we became very close, and one day as we were sitting for a craft session, she started to draw my name. She first pictured up a heart, she put her name, she put my name. And finally, we went on to a tree, took a compass and drew the name into it. We just thought that we are two lovebirds who are not being disturbed by anybody. But we did not know that there were certain jealous characters or so-called villains even in our love story. These were my fellow classmates who could not tolerate my getting close to this girl. And you know what they did? They went on spreading around things about me which pained me a lot. It pained me so much that I did not come to school for 2 days and I could not see the girl's face. Unfortunately, this girl's mother was a teacher in the same school. But that in no way, worried me. I was confident of what I was doing. And one fine day, it so happened that my friends provoked me to tell her something which would be bad. Would you believe it? In all my, bad state of my mind, I just told her one thing, that forget about all this dramatics of yours. And by mistake, I slapped her. When I slapped her, nothing much happened. The girl took it very sportingly. But it went to the principal of my college, or my school, who happened to be a sister, Sister Lynette. She used to teach me geography. This is the virgin lady that I referred to. She called me and I was expecting that my parents would be called. Nothing of that sort happened. She just made me sit in front of her and told me, "Have you truly fallen in love?" So I said, "Sister, I don't know." She said, "Think over it. There are 2 things that I would like to tell you. And henceforth remember this thing in your life. Whatever you do it with 100% dedication. If you love somebody from the heart. And if you have the feeling and maturity to go ahead with it, go ahead with it. Another thing is, don't get worried about people. Don't think what they talk about you. You must be confident of yourself. Whatever they say is just nonsense. Ignore it." And I remember she still told me in fluent Hindi. She said, "Hathi chale bazaar, kutte bhauke hazar. Hathi ko chalna chahiye. Kutton ki bhauk ko nahi dekhna chahiye." And I remember, yes, what that lady taught me. Then on, friends, I just stuck to one thing, that every person I meet, I would be very close to, very friendly with, but I would keep my personal things to my heart. And only one thing that I learned from that lady was that unless you don't think properly, don't take a decision. Wait for the time to come. I suppose my memorable incident, it may not be so memorable to many of you, it may sound a very ordinary one. Here I am unable to express what it taught me. It made me something entirely different from that. And from that day onwards, thank God, I am always lucky to be with good friends and good people. Thank you.
Quoting the opening lines of Shakespeare's 12th Night. "If music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess of it. If not so feeding, the appetite may sicken and so die." Yes, I've always had a passion for music, to an extent sometimes that education and academics has played a second role. While at Bangalore University last year, I hit upon the idea, why not form a choir at the university? The purpose was to participate in a music competition, the Basil Mission Christian Association Festival for Christmas music, wherein schools and colleges participate, and it's a very high level of competition. The standards are high, but I felt we could give it a try. After getting a small group together, the uphill task began. With no support whatsoever from the college authorities, the task was easier said than done. No auditorium for practice. An open-air volleyball court had to suffice as the stage, and the lonely trees and the odd passerby as audience. Writing the music was also very challenging, because singing in 4-part harmony is no joke. With long hours of effort and the help of a friend, this was accomplished too, and the result? A very original piece of work, modern, simple, and innovative. Coordination of voices was essential, and lots of practice was necessary. The encouragement we received was only from the serene natural surroundings, and our enthusiasm egged us on. 5th of December was fast approaching, and tensions ran high. Before we knew it, bang, the final countdown had ended. We were on stage and the show began. The competition was over, the results announced. We lost, of course. I was terribly disappointed. Shortly, the group assembled to bid farewell and wind up. Disappointment filled the air, but a very strange incident occurred. I was surprised. One of the group members gave me a bouquet of flowers and a card. It just read, "Thank you for bringing us this far, for teaching us to fight against all odds, for teaching us not to give up, and for leading us from the front." It went on to say, "This has been one of the best experiences we've had in our lives so far." At that moment, nothing could be more musical than these words. There were tears forming in my eyes, and I realized we hadn't lost. I wasn't defeated. This moment is definitely very memorable to me. My name is Anand Reg. Thank you.
My name is Anand Sumaya. I would like to take you all down memory lane to a time when I was 7 years old and my sister 9. It was a time of fun, of bullying, of teasing, of pulling each other's hair, of growing up. Since we were growing, our mother used to force us with this awful tasting drink called egg flip, which we had to have every day for breakfast. This huge concoction of raw eggs and milk was supposed to make us healthy and strong adults. Only later did we realize that it was more of convenience than anything else that our mother forced us with this daily torture. Now the worst thing was that my sister, who was just 9 years old, had graduated from a daily dose to a weekly one, as a result which she had to have it only once a week, that is on Fridays. So I was stuck with this dual horror of drinking egg flip and facing the sadism of my sister, who took great pleasure in reminding me every morning that I had egg flip to have, and
Good afternoon. My name is Anand. This incident I'm about to narrate to you is something that happened to me about 5 years ago. Now, this was October 1988, and that was when I got my car. Now, my parents thought I was old enough to handle a car, old enough to take on the responsibility of handling a car, and old enough to know not to misuse this given responsibility. Well, they were wrong. I was very thrilled when I got this car. I chose a Fiat because my father did not trust a Maruti and I did not want to settle for an Ambassador. So we got a Fiat and I was thrilled to bits, showing off, going all around town, telling the whole town about my car. it went on like that. Everybody knew, like, so and so had got a new car and he was showing. One fine day I had gone for a party. I was getting back home about 8:30 in the night, pretty early. Those times I had deadlines to go home to. I had to get back before 9. I was going back home and I met a couple of my friends. So they got into the car. We thought we'll go for a drive. And there's this long stretch of road in Vizag running along the beach. So we set off at a fast clip, full of enthusiasm. We were doing about 80 kilometers an hour when there was a scooter in front of me. There was an old couple on the scooter. And the man who was driving the scooter suddenly decided to take a turn. Now, in order to avoid him, I had to turn. And there was a pole in front of me. And I went into the pole at about 80 kilometers an hour. When this happened, I didn't know what had hit me. I was zapped. Sat in the car for a couple of seconds, got out, I looked at the car and passed out. Believe me, I fainted when I saw the car. The car was such a terrible wreck. I could not believe that it was brand new. It was yet to be registered. The windshield had flown off, the steering wheel was in 2-3 pieces, the steering shaft came and hit my face. My face wasn't a pretty sight. Not that it is now, but still, it wasn't a pretty sight. So my friends got out, they took me to the hospital, did the necessary repair job on my face, and now the car had to be taken for repair. That was a Saturday night, and the next day was a Sunday. So we couldn't get anybody to tow the car away because it was in no position to be driven. And luckily, at that point in time, my father was not in town. He was away abroad. So by the time he came back, I made sure that there was some shape given to the car. It wasn't just a tangled wreck. So he knew that what he was looking at was a car. So after he got back, he asked me, how did this happen? So obviously I couldn't tell him, I was going fast. I said, no, I had a flat, I had this, I had that. But he didn't believe me. The damage the car had undergone was not possible unless, one was going quite fast. What I'm trying to tell you is speed is a very, very dangerous weapon. Now you might laugh at me, I'm preaching, but still it is. And when you're going fast, you might be a good driver, but once you cross a certain limit, your life is not in your hands. It always depends on the other people on the road. Now the man who's coming in front of you or who's overtaking you, he might make a mistake and you will have to pay with your life for that mistake. And in addition to this, I had 3 friends of mine who were with me in the car. Fortunately, nothing happened to them, except one guy who got a nick on his chin. And even now he cribs because he claims it troubles him while shaving. So, speed, I implore you, don't go fast. Though even now and then, even I indulge in a little bit of speed. But then, I had to pay for it. Thank you.